We're just giving you a few minutes to find your place at the table. We are really, really full today, so actually if you don't have a place, just raise your hand. Those who don't have a chair, just wait a few minutes, they are bringing a few now. Wow, look around you. I mean, this is like a speaker's dream come true. You have more people than chairs in the room. So we are super thrilled. It's a completely full house. So round of applause to that. Do we have associate members in the room? Can you raise your hand, please, too? Yeah, so half of us. Round of applause for them. And our professional members. Do you have professional members? Yeah, good guys. Round of applause for professional members. Global speaking fellows. 5 of them. So do you know, guys, that I was told there are only 30 such people in the world, and we have 5 of them in the room. So it's really amazing. You know, guys, today I actually had an amazing day. Since very early in the morning, I was so excited about tonight. Like, I was walking down the street with a smile on my face. You know, the one that you have when you're either crazy or you're in love. And I think actually I'm both. And I can tell you why. Our first speaker is Manoj. And wait, I'm not done yet. Wait. And so Manoj is the next level leadership expert, author, speaker, and coach. No numbers so far. Here we come. In 2015, he was crowned world number 3 at the World Championship of Public Speaking in Las Vegas among 35,000 aspirants from 135 countries. In 2012, he was among the top 25 stand-up comedians at the International Comedy Festival in Hong Kong. Woo! And he has any stand-up comedy tonight? He has been featured in print media, TV, and radio, including the Straits Times and Comedy Central. He has an MBA from Imperial College London and is the CEO of Thoughts Expressions. So today, he will share his insights on professional keynotes. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome my dear friend, Manoj Vasudevan.
I'm very delighted to see this room filled to capacity, which means that tonight we will break even. In fact, I did a count. Today's attendance is more than 50% of the attendance we had at the annual convention. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, and the credit goes to Yana. She did all the marketing. And thanks to Yana. This proves what we can do with Russian influence. She's also a partner and she does amazing stuff, okay? So tonight, Frederick and I will be sharing our insights, our experiences, and we'll also be tapping onto your experience insight for the benefit of everyone. And we have nothing to sell today, we're just trying to give value and serve. Only thing we're selling is what Tom is selling, the convention ticket, right?
No need anymore.
Yeah, there's nothing else.
Next month.
But before I start, let me tell you, I'm not a born professional speaker, I'm an accidental professional speaker. Years ago, I used to have a job. Raise your hand if you have a job. Awesome. It feels good, right? You get a salary at the end of the month, whether you do your job or not. That's a great feeling. And I used to enjoy that. I was a management consultant. I used to enjoy that. And then when things got settled down, I was happy. Then I said, what can I do better? Then I thought of starting my own management consulting, and it was also doing great. Now sometimes I said, what's next? Then some voice and said, maybe you should be a speaker. And that was a bad thing because I was nervous to speak, and the speaking skill I picked up. It so happened that I started speaking, and soon I got spotted, and people started inviting me to do like speeches or workshops. In one of the first instances I got invited to speak, it was on a Saturday afternoon. And I was leaving home wearing a suit, tie, coat, bag. As I was leaving home, my 7-year-old son, a 7-year-old at that time, he stopped me and said, Daddy, where are you going? I said, I'm going to deliver a speech. And he said, this is a Saturday, why are you going on a Saturday? I said, well, that's when they called me, I had to go. Okay. And so you're not playing with me? I said, no, I'm going to go. Then as I was putting on my shoes, he turns to me and say, how much are they paying you? I said, they're not paying me anything. And he said, are you stupid or what? And I said, you don't understand. I walked and I took the car. Those days I was living in Mayor Road and went to Topayo. That was where I was delivering my 1-hour gig. And on the way I was thinking, I was really taking away his time from him. And at those days, the way I was positioning myself was, I didn't guide myself as a speaker. I just followed what was floating to my destiny. Right? So when somebody invites me to speak, I ask them, what do you want me to speak on? And they give me a topic. And I will do research. And I build a keynote or speech and deliver. And I was getting better at it. I didn't know that I had to master a topic or focus on a topic. Eventually, my good mentor, Brenda Benz, helped me with the title of Next Level Leadership. Round of applause, Brenda Benz. And also, those days I didn't even know about APSS. One of the APSS members, Karanveer Singh, anyone knows him? I don't know, he's not a member anymore. He came to me with a script and said, Manoj, can you coach me on stand-up comedy? And I said, I've never done stand-up comedy, how do you expect me to coach you on stand-up? And he said, no, you're funny. I said, really? And he said, at least you look funny. Then he gave me a script. I said, okay, show me a script. And he gave me a script. And I said, at what point do you want people to, what point do you expect people to laugh? And then that's when I started coaching him, and he did a debut, and he did really well. And he influenced me to do stand-up comedy. In fact, he got me a gig at Open Mic, and I did a gig, and that was recorded. Eventually, that was telecast on Comedy Central Asia, and I got invited to the International Comedy Festival. And those days, I was not even thinking, it's everything people was telling. And someone said, why don't you be the world champion of public speaking? Is there something about world champion of public speaking? So I started doing. So this is how I did. The reason I say that is when I started, thanks for help, and I was following what the client wants. Somebody tells me something, I will create a keynote for that. That's how it was. Then I started coaching people, and I was working on other people's script, other people's keynotes, and that's how I built my skills I have. So based on my experience on delivering keynotes, I'm going to share with you a few things I learned, and Frederick will also share his part of it. And what we plan to do was I will share my insights, Frederick come on, and all the 100 questions they send to Frederick, he's going to answer that in a very compressed form and slides, and we will have Q&A, all right? So this is what I found, and this is a very quick brief of this slide, is that what I realized is, when you are taking your stage, there are 3 parts, before, during, and after. I'm not going to go too detailed. The first thing they invite you to speak is because of your brand, right? Who you are. Wait, this is coming up? Yes? Brand. That's what I said, Brenda, right? Brand. And that's the reason that you get invited to speak. Alright? Now, during your speech, the reason they like you is because of your presence, connection, and the reflection. That means you get them to think about the topic, because typically keynotes are 1 hour and less. Then of course later the networking was Gil Peters comes in, and the follow-up, then you keep on building your thinking. Do not look at the slide, it's very simple. All I want to say was focus on one part of the brand. People in the back can't see this. Basically I said the branding is very important. That's something I realized by trial and error. Okay? Then another thing I learned from various mentors is that when you deliver a keynote, you go by a modular approach. So you're not writing the entire keynote, you write modules. You write modules, and I represent that with these Lego blocks. I hope this better. Okay. Okay. So what I mean by modules is you focus on building the building blocks, the 6 to 10 minute blocks of speech content. And which the benefit of that is this can be reusable, it can be scalable, you can expand from 6 to 15 minutes or 6 to 8 minutes, you can expandable, it's scalable. And also, you can give your audience repeatable experiences. Right? You can deliver predictable experience every time you speak. And that's one of the reasons you get called back. Now, based on the building blocks, you focus on the building blocks and you build the keynote. I mean, the reason I drew this picture is when you focus on the different building blocks, you can mix and match and come up with a keynote. And tell you why. Because these blocks can be reused in different keynotes you will deliver, maybe within your topic or across topics you will use. Now, the purpose of the module is following. One is transfer of experience. Okay, now the mic is working better. The transfer of experience means, is the mic working?
Yes, very well.
Okay. Hello? Okay, fine. I'm going to say it anyway. Don't, because we are running short of time. By transfer of experience, what I mean is the following. You have an experience and if the audience can share the same experience. So imagine this. I have a lime in my hand. You know what's a lime? The green thing? You call it lime? Right? Lime?
Lime.
Okay, I have a lime. I take the lime and I cut it into two. Oh my God. So, what do I have now? What do I have now?
Two lines.
Two lines.
And a cut half.
I take the half and I bite it. Why did you cringe?
Sweet.
Some people
say bitterness.
Yeah, bitterness. So is there a lime in my hand? No. Is there a knife? No. But that way you bring it forward, we share an experience. Now we can talk about lime, the sour taste, and things around that. Just to share with you how that experience matters. Because I believe when the audience can share your experience, they will better connect with you and they will remember you more. And I'm going to steal the mic from, I don't have a feeling that this is working. Okay? And second is to prime your listeners. Once Ayana gets into work. Okay? Hello? Okay, great. So, by prime, sorry, is it too loud? By priming your listeners, it means to persuade, and the purpose of your keynote, to persuade, to resonate, to inspire, to mesmerize, and to entertain. I know most of us are doing professional keynote in a way, but there are also different ways, purpose of the keynote, maybe to entertain, to mesmerize. Yeah, so that's what I mean by prime your audience. The next one would be, and the reason for that is for clarity and recall. When you have a structure, when you have a kind of format, it's clear in the audience's mind and they will remember it longer after you leave. Maybe you want them to remember you like months after you have delivered your speech. So that's that, okay? 3 things. Now what I like to do is to actually deliver a module, okay? Deliver a little module, tell you a little module, and then I will deconstruct it and share with you how it was constructed. Will that be okay for you?
Yes.
Okay. I'll go back to my Okay, and as you listen to me, you have to do 2 things. One is to predict what these 3 magic words will be. Okay? Try to predict what the 3 magic words will be. And as you listen to me, think about what's coming next. Okay? And again, you don't have to copy my style. I speak in my style, you speak in your style. Styles can be different. This just to illustrate the point. Would that be okay with you?
Yep.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to share with you the speech, a little module, and from there we will go and deconstruct. I'm going to take a sip of water, and what you need to do is to predict what the 3 magic words are, and to predict what could be coming next. All right? I want to confess. Like most people, I was going through life with fear, worry, and anxiety about the future. Then 3 years ago, I discovered 3 magic words. Words we need to remember every day of our lives. As you know, I live in Singapore. I'm a father of 2 and a husband of 1. 3 years ago, I got an opportunity to go to Orlando, Florida to attend a convention as a speaker, and I was so excited. But my wife refused to let me go. She said, darling, if you really want to go, take the kids along with you and visit Disney World. I refused. I didn't want to go to Disney World because I'm very scared of adventure rides. You see, I'm not as brave as I look. I fear the twists and turns, loops and speed, heights and falls. Eventually, I took my son and my daughter all the way to Disney World because I had a much greater fear of my wife. When my kids and I stepped into Disney World, my plan was to hide them from the rides. Soon we took a wrong turn, and guess what? I saw a scary ride, a ride that starts at a height of 5 stories, followed by a vertical drop all the way down. People on the ride were yelling and screaming, and my son goes, Daddy, let's go for that ride. I said, no, they are bad people. They just dragged me inside. The entrance of the ride was a dark cave leading to a long dark tunnel that spiraled all the way to the top of a man-made mountain. That's where the ride would start. As we climbed up the tunnel, I saw a sign that said, warning, this ride is not suitable for pregnant women or for people with back problems or heart problems. This way to exit. Darling, Daddy can't take this ride. I have a weak heart, a back problem, and I think I am pregnant. They just pushed me forward. As we climbed up along the dark tunnel, I saw several such warning signs that filled me with fear. I wanted to exit. But if I back out, my kids will be very sad. And if I take the ride, I will die. And my insurance doesn't cover suicide. Soon we reached the top. There I saw another sign in red. This is your last chance to exit. Should I eat my pride and take the exit? Or should I take the ride and cease to exist? I dragged my kids out towards that exit. And in a rare show of unity, both of them started to cry. All the Americans were staring at me. One man shouted, "Hey dude, this ride is not as bad as you think." I stared at that man and said, "Fine." What do you think? Did I take the ride?
Yes.
I had to. Because my pride was in the line. The vertical drop lasted for just 2 seconds. It was not as bad as I thought. Later, we got this. Look at me frozen with fear. That's me. Hugging my kids as well. Everyone is scared. Now, look at this cheerful lady. Wow. She was the only person who remembered to enjoy the ride. Those were the 3 magic words I learned. Enjoy the ride. I felt my life was like that ride, and this picture shows how I was living my life. Like most people, I was going through life with fear, worry, and anxiety along a dark tunnel. Now think about this. Have you been enjoying your ride? Have you been enjoying your life? I remember when I was a teenager, my worry was, will I pass my exams? When I passed my exams, my worry was, will I get a job? When I got a job, my worry was, will I get fired? And as I grew older, I became anxious about my health, retirement, savings, mortgage, children, their future. It goes on and on like a dark tunnel with no end in sight. And as a professional speaker, I fear about, will anybody call me to speak? What will I do tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now? Year after year, my fear increased, my hair decreased. That ride changed me. Since then, whenever I start to fear and worry about the future, I remember that cheerful lady on that scary ride. And I remind myself, enjoy the ride! It works like magic. Why? Because you see, even if you have a setback, even if your ride goes all the way down, it does not stay down forever. It soon bounces back all the way up safely. Life also bounces back. Enjoy the ride. When I remember the 3 magic words, enjoy the ride, I feel a burst of energy, focus, and peace that defeats fear, worry, and anxiety. These days I don't even fear my wife. When she's not around. My friends, these days you never know who is taking your pictures. If someone takes a picture of your life, how would you look? Would you look like the many people who yell and scream through life? Or would you look like the one person who remembers the 3 magic words? And the 3 magic words are? Enjoy your life. That's the module, okay? Thank you. So, will that be okay if I deconstruct it? Say what is done, okay?
Yes.
And there's a picture. Put the banner just in case the PowerPoint doesn't work. Alright? Now, crafting your module. So that was a particular module. Again, I chose a module that most people can relate to. Maybe we won't use such a speech, but hopefully you are trying to predict what the 3 magic words were. Anyone want to share what were you trying to predict? What do you think it was?
Life is beautiful.
Life is beautiful. What else?
You can do it.
You can do it.
Feel your life.
Feel your life. Alright. What else? Anything else?
I love you.
I love you. Okay. I love you. Okay, so just to get an idea, okay? Now, before you craft a speech, I would recommend, and again this is my suggestion, this is what I recommend to people I coach as well, is that before you write your keynote or the module, these are 3 questions you ask. One of the things I realize is one of the most difficult thing to do in the world is to listen to somebody else. So your audience has to go through a pain to listen to you. So one of the things I believe is, I count if I'm speaking to 10,000 people, that means, and for 1 hour or 20 minutes, 1 hour, they are spending 10,000 hours on me. Listen to me, they multiply. So that one of the first point I ensure is that what is the return on time invested? Or is this a philosophical question? Are you going to give them value? Are you going to give them something of value? That's the reason that you'll get called back and rehired or refer, all that thing, okay? Second is, what is your proof? Whatever you say on stage, and this is something I notice time and time again, people giving away statistics without any reference. Saying that 90% of people do that, 90% of companies do that. So be ready to be challenged if you're saying anything. So better to do that before you write your module. What is your proof? You don't want to be called out, your credibility is at stake. The next one, the third one, is what is your funda? By funda I mean, after listening to your speech, what do you want your audience to feel? Right? What do you want your audience to feel? Is this before you touching your keyboard or starting to write your speech? What do you want your audience to feel? What do you want your audience to unveil? What's the new thing you're going to share? So if you look at speakers like Simon Sinek, he's always giving you new information. Steve Jobs, Amy Cuddy is like number 2 on TED Talk. Simon is number 3 of all time, number 3 of all time, 32 million views. One of the reasons they get people to come back to them, they're always giving new information. So it's not information you can Google, they kind of put new inferences on those information. Other people, Malcolm Gladwell, Simon Sinek, same good thing as well. They also do a lot of research and deliver new insight. Whereas people, I have not watched it so much, but I watched Simon and a few others. This is one way. Steve Jobs, always people look for because he's going to say something new. Okay? So you consciously add something new that people will be valuable. And the end is, what do you want your audience to notice? What do you want your audience to notice? As in, they already know something, you want to remind them. So if you are going to an organization, you want to tell them something they already know, you're reminding them. Change is what? Constant, whatever, right? Whatever they know, or change is coming, though.
Or is inevitable except from vending machines?
Whatever he said. Alright, so then The next one is, the D is, what do you want your audience to do? You want to give an instruction or suggestion of what they can do. And do you think just because you said, ask them to do they will do that? Usually no, because you want to tell them what they can achieve. This is coming to Pamela's, what is that? Solution, results.
You can do it.
Yeah, you can do it, yeah. Yeah, so that's the thing. Now, how do you structure the module? Those are the questions you come, and then the structure of the module is, first is story. Story is at the core of public speaking, right? That's what we all do. Storytellers, essentially storytellers. And I'm not very comfortable with this mic, so I can do that. It's okay.
It's very fine.
But I don't hear myself again. It's okay.
They can hear you back.
We need to hear you, you don't.
I need some validation, you know. All right. Okay, this is better. This sounds better. Okay.
Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the mic. Enjoy the mic. Okay. So first is story. So what I call it sparks. As in, your module should spark the imagination of your audience. Make them think. Make them remember you. That means when they remember. And I'm not saying you be remembered like 1 hour later, 2 hours later, 5 months or years. So you will own your message, and people remember you for your message. And so the story, as for the story, and in my case is the roller coaster, the ride I went to. Point, application is that how they can apply. In my case, I said, worrying about all these little things in life, you don't have to. And reflection is one thing that's very key. Reflection is when actually your idea sinks in. Only when you get your audience to think about your message, that idea will sink in, and that's when they'll remember. So one of the things I noticed is that at our APSS convention, Frederick and I were like dissecting some speeches. Because throughout the convention we were taking notes. So there were some amazing speakers, and the speakers who really stood out were those who actually turned back the point to the audience to ask a question. Right? Ask you, how is it in your life? Not all about me, or my I did that, I did that. In my little module I had probably 5 or 7 questions. This is actually to check in with the audience. When you check in, and that's when they go into their world to think about it, right? So reflection is very important for them to remember. And the key, K is for the key quote, the key takeaway, the key line, your quote that people remember. In this case, enjoy the ride. It's not my quote, but if it's my professional keynote, I will use my own quote, right? The quote says, you're never too small to be big. And I give them little stickers with, you're never too small to be big. So those, like, what is your key quote that you can include in each of your module? Something to think about. And anyone wants to say this last word? Segue is one of the straightest words in English language. It's written like that, right? And segue. Segue is how you connect to the next module. Okay, so this is how you craft your. Any questions so far? No. Okay. Now, what you do is, once you're done that, you stack up your modules, include all of them are aligned, and then you connect it together. Right? Basically I'm trying to say bottoms up, right? You look at the components, build the components, be so good in those components, and so you can repeat it and mix and match, and you have a keynote. And some of the very successful keynote speakers I've met, there are a lot of these modules, and they will ask you for example, one of my friends is Craig Valentine. He's a very, is a world champion of public speaking as well. He's a good speaker. One of the things he says, if he's invited to speak for 1 hour, he has a speech called 6 hours of change, right? So if he's invited to speak for 1 hour, he will say, I'll speak about the 6 hours of change. And if he's invited for 45 minutes, he says, I'll speak about the 4 hours of change, right? So he's always, you are scaling for the audience, right? So basically it's mixing and match. So that's how you do, right? You have to align that. Now, having said that, those are the rules you use. Now it's time to break the rules. You don't follow this is for the guidance to build your keynote, and there's time to break the rules. You don't have to follow this rule 100% all the time, because there's a lot of things happening in the room or happening on the day we can incorporate in your speech. For example, when I started off noticing that the room was full, more than usual, I spent like a few minutes commenting on that. If my speech is so tightly scripted, and this way I'm not totally unscripted, but if I'm scripted or I can't maneuver, there's no space for me because I'm rushing to finish and there's no time. So what I suggest is that you need to allow yourself time to think out of the script. By script, I mean what you plan to say. For example, I was speaking in the Philippines. On that day I was speaking, the chairman of the company, a big conglomerate, he asked me to go for lunch. And I was already stressed about my speech, and I'm sitting with this guy, and he comes to this big casino in Philippines. What is it called? The big one? Dreams or something like that? Yeah, and he comes with an entourage, a lot of people coming. And he shakes hand, and I'm thinking about my speech, and I speak to this guy, and I'm happy, but I was also very worried about my speech. But then, during that conversation, I picked up a lot of information from him, and when I was speaking, I was able to incorporate, as Mr. Chairman said, that makes my speech new for the audience. That means I'm not scripted, right? It makes the more credibility. But you need to allocate time in your speech for that. That's what I mean by the 80% rule. If you're invited to speak for 60 minutes, I would suggest I prepare for 45 minutes. I'll never run out of material. Probably I can finish early, but nobody ever complained you finished early. Have anybody complained to you? Nobody complains. And if you're 60 minutes, 45 minutes. So I have a lot of buffer room to play with, and nobody complains. And usually what typically happens, in a 1 hour term, in a 1 hour keynote, do you really get 1 hour to speak?
No.
They always compress, can you shorten it? Yeah, they kind of shorten it. So I had an instance, a 60-minute keynote, I had to do it like 25 minutes. So you're always under pressure. It's a closing keynote. So that gives you some space to move. Okay? And modules on the fly are things like what I just did in opening. I spoke to Yana, she said she's the marketing, we're so happy. Little things you can add on. Okay? Now, the story. Of course, story is a very important part of the speech, as you know. I'm not going to go to the standard storytelling format. Most of you know, you can Google it. What I'm trying to do is some specific aspects of the storytelling with reference to the module I just said. If you want your audience to listen to you, there is one important component you need to have in your speech. It's called the hook. Right? Hook. That's what you get the audience. So a speaker speaks, writer writes, and okay, now mind. Okay. So hook is what you get people. Okay. And that is what. So that's an experience I have shared. What I learned by experience. Once I was speaking in Malaysia, spoke was 45 minutes. At the end of the 45 minutes, the lady came to me and said, "Oh, thanks, I was holding on. I want to go to the restroom. I wanted to hear your speech." Then I started incorporating like those aspects which people want to listen to you till the end. So you have some aspects to hook the audience, right? And of course, you can't be. I can't say cooking all the time, but you can't be doing that all the time. You should reveal. That's the aspect you need to, at any point, you reveal your message. So in my case, the 3 magic words was the hook. I made you to think, and then I took you to some kind of twists and turns, and then reveal that message with the banner. You totally didn't expect that banner to come up. Of course, I don't use props in my speeches. This is for illustration. Okay. This is the part that might be interesting, is that the format of storytelling. Can you see the slide? Everyone? Yeah. Yes? That last row? Yes? I know you. Yeah. No, I know. You were in Dr. Thiagi's class, right? Yes. So, typical, no, I've seen him for many years. So, typically a story, as it happens, let's say chronologically, let's say the time, you follow the time, there's a start, a middle, and an end, right? Yeah. So something happened, then something happened, then something happened. And typically, most speakers I've seen will speak chronologically, like they speak with the start, the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? The start, the middle, and the end. Now, if you notice some exceptional speakers and speakers really who can grab people's attention, they play around with a sequence. This is a technique called, anyone knows the name of the technique? It's called in media res, right? It's a Latin name, which means that you don't follow the order, right? You don't follow the order. You start in the middle. For example, I'm going to show 3 variants of that. One is you start in the middle of a story, right? And then you take the audience, and then you use a flashback to explain the background. You don't explain the background because background is boring. The action is what people want to hear. You bring people right into the action, and then you engage them, then you backfill accordingly. right? Accordingly. So even in my speech, a lot of this little module I shared, a lot of things I took off. I didn't say which convention I'm going for. I didn't say my wife's name, my children's name, which ride. And this actually people can start thinking, which ride was that? I've spoken delivered this many times in the US. This is what's that? Oh yeah. When you start, I thought this ride, then I thought this. But they are listening to you. Okay. Watch Simon Sinek. Again, recently I'm just trying to get some examples. He's doing very well in speaking. He starts in the middle and goes there without the background. He doesn't go to the front. Malcolm Gladwell. These are all highly paid speakers, also celebrities as well. There were some speeches I can recommend on YouTube or TED. One of Simon Sinek's speeches is called "Why Leaders Eat Last." And there's a particular speech variant of that by 99U, that channel. He starts in the middle of a story of somebody flying a plane, and then he started explaining the plane, the scene between the two valleys. So he's right in the middle of the action. That speech, I noticed, had 3 million views. He has so many other speeches, maybe 100,000, 200, still a lot, but not substantial. I believe because they really grab people from the start. Another option is you keep on fluctuating, you keep on going back, the flashback. And if you notice speeches like, or you look, I've written some examples here. If you look at all these best-selling novels, Harry Potter. Anyone read Harry Potter? Yeah. Don't be ashamed, Jerome. Jerome is like, I never read it until my son forced me to read it. And as he really forced me to read it, because he was writing his own book, and he wanted me to read other books as well. So I read the Harry Potter, and I have to say, actually, releasing his book tomorrow. I'm very happy with it. And thank you. His work. And but when I read Harry Potter, do you remember the first scene in the first book? It's like a cat sitting on the wall, looking grumpy. So then they talk about you know who. There's a who. And I'm not such you read it, but this is a technique used for centuries. Homer's Iliad, right? Iliad, Odyssey, and in Indian context, Ramayana and Mahabharata. So you come in a story, then it goes all the way around everywhere. It actually hooks the people and becomes memorable. And a lot of these texts has been passed around by oral tradition, right? There's no written text 5,000, 3,000 years ago. It's oral tradition because that's memorable. Yeah. Then there's a technique which is called the unfinished story. That means you start a story, you do not finish it. You stop at the middle and you just move away. I think there's a technical name for it. Zeigarnik effect. Looping? No, there was Zeigarnik effect or something. Looping out, we don't know. Okay. Anyway, let me explain this. That means the example is when you go to a restaurant and you take orders from the waiter or take orders, he remembers where everyone is sitting, right? So research has done, he remembers, and then he can deliver orange juice, cranberry juice. Zeigarnik effect, yeah. So deliver this stuff. Then, once the order is closed, we call the waiter and say, hey, what did he order? I don't know. So the theory is, when it's unfinished, till the time it's unfinished, it's retained in the short-term memory or some kind of memory, and you retain for long. This remember. A great example is I recently posted on Facebook for inviting you to come for a comedy show. Who came? Yeah, you came. Daddy, yours? Yeah. It was Papa CJ's show. Papa CJ's comedian. This is the effect he used there, right? And I was so busy taking notes, analyzing his speech. At the end, people, you cried at the end? Yeah. You cried? Yeah. I cried. Frederick cried, he cried, I didn't cry. And I thought I was a psychopath. No. But because I was not really paying attention to him, I was like taking notes. I was taking notes of how he structured his speech. But actually people cried. He's a comedian who makes people cry. One of the reasons, he's funny, and he was a really good guy. That's why I invited everyone to come. A lot of people came. And he asked me to open his night, and I refused because I was so scared to open for him. I don't know, not for you. And so one of the things he did was he didn't finish the story. His story is continuing, right? and because other people remember. So these are some techniques you can consider when you write your story. Apart from the usual characters that you plot, all the usual stuff, this makes it more impactful. Okay? Now, I don't have much time, right? So I need to get my friend Frederick on stage. So I will skip through a couple of slides here. Yeah?
Like the octopus.
It's okay? The octopus, I don't want time because 80% start is what I mean by this. So a lot of people think when you start, you will start with impact, and so what some people tend to do is they show your best at the start. So the expectation goes so high, then it goes down, then it dies out. That dies down, right? So what I would suggest is you only show your 80% at the start. You don't do too good. I mean, excellent. Then you bring them up on a right and you close up on a high, right? So, yeah, that's what I meant by 80%. The octopus, I'm not going to come back, but octopus is a storytelling model I created to teach people about how to hook people's attention all the time. Like components. I'm going to go through the specifics. Some of them I covered. The orange is something I shared here 2 years ago. Anyone remember? Yeah, I think some of you, yes. But I'll share with you a book on that for free. You can take the book, and that explains that. Orate is what I mean. So basically, this slide, what it means is you take your story, you make sure it goes through the octopus storytelling model, make sure all the components are taken care of. And orange is to make a boring story entertaining. So if you look at my story, there is nothing funny, much message in let's look at the picture. The source of this entire speech was this tiny photo I got from Disney World. Of course, I enlarged it, printed it large, and made it bigger, and I crafted a story around it. The incident by itself is not that entertaining. You need to build things around it. And orange is what it shows how it is done. And I'm going to share with you a book for that, so you don't have to worry about that. Orate. I had to have a third O. On O is orate is the word I came up with. Orate is actually you practice it. Unless you practice so many times, I mean, you share it with enough audience. I think it was Mike the speaker, someone said this, right? You tell the same joke 23 times before you tell anyone, 18 times something before you tell in public. So you need to have a platform to practice your little modules. And the platforms I use is the following. Since I do public speaking coaching, I have my clients, which falls into my territory. I do a speakers mastermind, call them once in a month, and I deliver a 30-minute speech. That's where I test my material. Right? And this Papa CJ, the comedian we just said, he's a friend of Jerry Seinfeld, and he's told me about him, and he said you always glow in the dark. Have you heard about this term, glow in the dark? That means Jerry Seinfeld, how does he test a new material? Because he's always in the big stage. So what he finds, he finds a small, little open mic, little town where nobody is there, and he tests his material there. And he perfects it before he is on the big stage. Yeah? So you need to find a place where you test it before you open it to the public. Now, this is the book you can download. You can take a photograph of the slide later. And there are also some tips on my website. It's called the 52 Prime Speaking Tips that persuade, resonate, inspire, mesmerize, entertain. You can sign now, you can take a look at that. And so what I would recommend you is, of course, Keynote is a big thing which is to be repeatable. You can use it multiple times. And it's valuable, and if people are paying you money to speak, we need to give more value so that the deal is fair and you get called back again, right? And so what I suggest is build the Keynote one module at a time, and we're going to come back and start again. Thank you.